A pleasant good evening to everyone listening via Facebook Live and Radioland, and welcome to another episode of Just the Facts. I'm your host this evening, Shellya Rogers-Webster, District Representative for Valley North and the Minister responsible for Education, Social Development, Library Services, and Probation. This evening, I have the pleasure of being in the company of three phenomenal educators. This evening, I am joined by Mrs. Tracelyn Hamilton, who has over 30 years of experience in education. Mrs. Hamilton has served as a teacher. She has served as a principal. She's also now serving in an administrative capacity and role. We also have with us Mrs. Arlette Gumbs, who currently serves as the department head for business at the Albina Lake Hodge Comprehensive School. Mrs. Gumbs has almost 10 years of experience in education and has done a phenomenal job of transforming the business unit of the Albina Lake Hodge Comprehensive School. We are also joined by Ms. Thelma Griffin, who also has over 30 years of experience in early childhood education. Thelma has served as a teacher, she served as a principal, and of course, she also owns Thelma's Education Garden. So we have a wealth of experience among us, almost over 70 years of experience between all three of these educators, certainly phenomenal educators in their own right. I recently had the opportunity to take on a study tour in Florida where three of these educators were actually a part of that group. It was a group of over 20 plus educators at various levels, from early childhood education to primary and secondary level, as well as administrators in education. This tour was sponsored partially by the Richard Schultz Foundation, so we want to put on record our gratitude to the Richard Schultz Foundation, and particularly Mary Beth for the outstanding job she did organizing the study tour, but also taking care of us while we were in Collier County, Florida. So this evening I want us to take a bird's eye view of education generally, but I want to start with the study tour. And I want to give each of these educators an opportunity to talk about their experience at the study tour, and also to just give us an idea of the positives and also the gaps that they recognize that Anguilla has as a result of that study tour. Good evening, ladies.
Good evening.
We'll start with you, Mrs. Hamilton. I'll put you on the spot and ask that you tell us a little bit about your experience during that Collier County study tour.
All right, so the trip to Collier County was an eye-opener. First of all, I'm grateful that I was able to go on this study tour. And I can say when I reflect on the week in Collier that it was, as I would say, it was inspiring. Why was it inspiring? Because we got a view of what hard work and dedication, what it looks like, because it's consistency. One key thing that I got from the beginning was the power of the we, the power of we. And that was throughout the tour in terms of the collaboration. We saw the collaboration at every level, from the highest level, superintendent, down to the school level. And so, to look at that, I felt that it was hope. Being an educator in Angola, that's all I did. Straight out of secondary school, I've been in education. So I'm very passionate about education in Anguilla. And so I was able to see that there is hope, because Collier County, as they would have said to us, it didn't just happen. It took hard work. They were intentional about bringing all the little bits together and making it the we. And because of that, we were able to see excellent practice in terms of classroom. We were able to see support services. We were able to even go into the community and see that same level of commitment and that same level of consistency across. And not only that, one of the key things was the data dialogue. Everything was focus on the data. It was the data-informed action. So it was intentional about what they do, and just to realize that while the data was there, they actually took that data over time, because sometimes we think that it happens overnight. It's not magic. And so the patience and the consistency and the hard work that they put into the education system in Collier, to me right now, it's a wow factor. It was just excellent.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Teacher Tracelyn. Ms. Gumbs.
So Teacher Tracelyn has said everything that I would
Well, that was
just
very
add, and I do agree. The trip for me was quite, I wouldn't say eye-opening, because in Anguilla, well, at least at the high school, we have a lot of the practices on the books, and we try to do a lot of the things. However, it was great to see the actual practice of what we are supposed to be doing in person. So it felt great to see that in the next 10 to 20 years, Anguilla will be the next Collier County. One main takeaway for me was the accountability from the district representative right down to the classroom teacher. A part of the accountability that I took away was teachers, principals and teachers are on a contract. They're on a contract, a yearly contract, and they are paid based on promotion, and well, their promotion is based on performance. And that was like, wow. In my mind, I said something like this could never happen in Anguilla, but they did it. They saw great results in the classrooms, grades increase, attendance increase, and most shockingly, staff turnover was extremely low. So maybe that is something we can, well, not put teachers on a yearly contract, but hold teachers to a greater level of accountability, along with school management, education officials, and everybody above.
Thank you, Ms. Gumbs. Ms. Griffin.
Yes. First, I would like to say thank you for the exposure this evening. I just want to say the experience was very insightful, engaging, and it offered, for me, it offers how early childhood education is implemented in diverse settings. And the classrooms were a wow for me, and how the teacher and the students' interactions, you know, there was a lot of that I have observed. And the routines daily, you could see it was just not for the day that we were there, but it's a continuous thing that they do inside of the classroom. Another thing that really opened my eyes is the overall environment. It's like it gave me a practical understanding of how the support that the children get socially, academically, and you know, emotionally.
Thank you very much. I think those were some insightful remarks in relation to your individual experiences. And I just want to give the public a little insight as to what exactly occurred. So, as I would have indicated, the education department would have chosen a number of persons from different areas across education to be able to take advantage of this study tour. And by the way, this is something that I would like to replicate more often, because I think more educators, more officials would be able to benefit from this, because there's something very special about being on the ground, being in that setting for that extended period of time. In the initial stages, I didn't think that I would join the trip. But my permanent secretary convinced me to go. She thought it would be beneficial. And so the government of Anguilla paid for me to be able to be on the study tour. And I can tell you, after the first day, just from the first day alone, I was like, this was so worth my time coming here, because taking a week off is a lot. And you sometimes feel behind when you've taken so much time off island in your workload. But I can tell you, as a minister, being able to have that overview and oversight of all the different moving parts in an education system was so beneficial to me. One of the things that we did on the first day, we have all met together. We had an overview of Collier County and how Collier County works. That overview was able to dispel some of what I thought, because when I think of Collier County, I think of Naples. Naples, which is persons, you know, who would be aware of Naples. When you think of Naples, you think of high end, you think of wealthy persons, but I was shocked to learn that over 50% of the students that operate in Collier County, English is their second language. Yes. So there are a lot of Latino students. They come from challenging backgrounds. They have high levels of poverty overall within the county, and yet they have been able to create such a remarkable education system despite those challenges, and they've developed an education system that responds to the challenges that they have within their county, which was very admirable.
Can I add?
Yeah, absolutely.
To your point, I would say what I saw was community involvement.
Yes.
The community is very involved.
And
They're extremely supportive. They're very proud to have educated individuals. They're very inclusive of persons of different backgrounds. And persons spend.
Yes.
They spend, a lot of money is spent in the county in order to support everyone. Yes. So it's not just persons that come from wealthy homes. The persons who come from farming backgrounds are still taken care of. We went to one center where Spanish-speaking parents were receiving sessions on how to teach their children how to read. And that was quite impressive. Wherever you went in the neighborhood, let's say you went to a store, you could feel the pride in the community. And I would like to see something like that replicated in Anguilla, a passion for education, a love for education, and wanting the school to do well. Sometimes as an educator, I can feel like it's Albina Lake Hodge against Anguilla community. Yes.
But as you said, Arlette, not cutting you off, you remember when one of them said something about the community, yes. And the community is highly involved.
Engaged, yes.
Yes.
Yes, I think what Collier County realizes is that the overall success of their county is largely dependent on every citizen doing well. And I think we in Anguilla could definitely learn a lot from that as well. You know, if the community involvement is strong among our schools, the support system is strong, our PTAs are strong, our teachers are aligned, our parents are aligned, students are aligned, you know, there can be lots more success stories. As Arlette said, sometimes it feels like the school against the rest of society. And so we really have to understand that we're all in this together. And if education is to thrive, we all need to be together. In addition to that, we also spent time with our counterparts.
Yes.
So the second day we were paired with different individuals more closely aligned with what we do. So Ms. Hamilton was assigned with the ESL coordinator, so English as a second language coordinator. Ms. Gumbs, you were assigned with
schools that focus on business.
On
I met
business.
with principals and different teachers. So it's great.
And you were in early childhood.
Center.
Correct. So, and I went to the superintendent of Collier County and her subordinates, and so I spent the morning meeting with all the heads of the various areas of Collier County. So from the persons responsible for maintenance, persons responsible for security. And so we did a whole morning of that. And that was very beneficial for me at the ministerial level, because sometimes you feel as though because of how our system is set up, you have limited control. Because you don't control the personnel, you have very limited control over the system. But what that showed me is that if you develop a cadence of accountability, you put certain systems in place, you have certain expectations, and everybody is aligned, there can be so much success. So I thought it was extremely beneficial for us generally, and there's so many things I took back from it, but one of the major things was the data dialogue that Ms. Hamilton referenced. Anybody wants to speak a little bit more about the data dialogue?
So the data dialogue, I came back to Anguilla with that. I told everybody data dialogue. So essentially they do, every decision that the county makes, it's based on data. Not what China is doing, not what Finland is doing, based on the data in their county. And in Anguilla, of course, we do testing, but is it really, decisions really, are plans really implemented to push education further? So for instance, they have minimum standards, and if a school is not meeting the minimum standard, they will meet with the district would come up with a plan, implement the plan, follow through, they will send support. So it's not just giving the school a plan, but also supporting the school, all of the resources that the school would need in order to help teachers raise the standard of those students. At least at the Albina Lake House Comprehensive School, I don't think we have a minimum standard as yet, for instance. So students don't have anything to work towards. So there's no repeating per se of students. So we will get students sometimes where 50, but we will get, when I mean a minimum standard, students who get below 50 is still finishing high school and still leaving.
Because we have a comprehensive system.
But I mean to say that can change in the future. For instance, if students are leaving primary school not reading and writing efficiently, sooner or later those students will have to pick 6 options and still do English and maths at some level. Whereas in Cowley, students are pushed on a particular track based on careers, more so career based.
I'm going to intervene there because as Education Officer Student Support Services, I'm going to interject there because I agree with what you're saying, that what we need to do is to ensure that we are not putting round pegs in square holes. So we meet the needs, because what they're doing, they're making sure that every child accesses learning. Now it looks different.
And they must be the standard.
We must have the access, because we can't just take map on Collier to Anguilla, because we have to think about our context. We have a comprehensive system, and there are some things that we would have to work out. But also, when we talk about the data dialogues, what was very beneficial was to look at senior management taking lead. They don't just put things in their hands. They have to take your data, and you have to sit down and look at what that data says. What is it saying to me? What is it at our school level? And being accountable to say, we're going to do this, and not just do it, track it. Because we are very good at doing certain things, but we do not track, we drop off, and we do not keep that consistency. So what they do is consistent. And I like the fact that it goes right into having the senior management or the principal and the deputy come before the school board, and they're going to be you're not telling me, I'm not telling you that your school is failing and it's 50%. You are saying, I recognize that our school needs help in reading, so we have put this in place, and now we have moved from this. So the fact that teachers, the principal and the deputy, they're able to speak to their data, and not just speak to it for speaking to its sake, use it to make decisions, to make their school improve.
I think there's a high level of ownership at the school level.
Very.
And I think sometimes that is a challenge in our system, whether ownership is not given or it's not taken, and we have to identify. I guess every school has its own set of challenges. But what I found very instructive was how strong the leadership at the school level is. Very empowered, very strong, very accountable.
And they meet very often.
Yes. Yeah. So each principal at every school has their leadership team. The leadership team knows exactly what they are responsible for. The leadership team is constantly troubleshooting the issues, so that teachers themselves don't always have to be the ones figuring out, how to cover a class if a teacher is out, how to provide support if there are gaps, because the leadership team, they're the ones who are troubleshooting from all in the morning. They're the ones who are figuring out how do you ensure that this school is successful. But what I also found is that the leadership team is also in the classrooms. So they're moving through the campuses consistently. So you're always seeing them. You're seeing them in the classroom. You're seeing them coaching. You're seeing them observing. They have their observation sheets. So observation is very frequent. It's important. It's valued. And the teachers expect it.
And it's how it's done as well, because the observation it's common. So a teacher is not jumping when the principal comes in, because the principal is coming in. It's obvious that This is part
that
of
is
it,
the
and
routine.
that's
Their routine.
accountability at all levels. So you are accountable to these children to teach them, and so I'm coming in because I am accountable to someone else
Right.
at this the higher level. So that was very
I agree. Seeing it in person, I went to Barron High, which is the top high school in the county currently. And so the principal greeted me, and he was walking through the halls. He knew every student. He was up and down. He was basically, he told me he'd spend the least amount of time like in the office. He's on the corridors because he wants to support teachers. I know the system in Angola is a bit different. Persons may have other agendas. Let's say our management at a school uses that education for a meeting here and there, so they may not be able to be at the school regularly. But now this goes back to planning. He also told me that the district plans everything. So when school starts in August, there's an agenda. So meetings are scheduled then and there.
Right.
The only how there's an impromptu meeting if there's like a security threat.
Issue.
So management can stay at the school in meetings. They utilize a lot of like Zoom technology in order to have meetings. So the students were greeting the principal. He knew everybody by name. And what was interesting to me, because I had preconceived notions in terms of uniform, as I keep asking if they wear uniforms. We have a lot of issues at the school with uniform infractions in terms of maybe uniforms unkept, short, hair long. But students who are wearing hoodies and jackets were all covered. They were well dressed in their attire. So that was like, okay, wow. So we have a uniform and we having a lot of issues with uniform infractions. And here's a school where there's no uniform, 1,200 students. And if students come to school, let's say in a crop top, when they enter, there's a reception area, they go back out. They're not coming into the school. They stay outside until somebody come give them a shot, etc. And another thing too, IDs. Every student had an ID. They had to wear the ID. I had one student pass in the class where I was at. The ID was in the pocket, so the student had to pay, I think, 50 cents because they didn't have the ID on. And that is tied to graduation. So they may not pay for the entire time that they're at the high school, but when they come to graduation, everybody pays up. So it's just little things that was implemented to make the system work. So we don't have to do, and again, we have a lot of these things on the books. We try to do a lot of things.
But all of those things don't have to be implemented one time.
Yes.
You know, we can take
Simple
little
things.
steps by steps. Even the routines at the schools, you know, the guidelines that they follow there is, you know, I went to one of the schools and I was able to see the preschoolers themselves. You know, they had to walk on a specific line to go for their meals. And I am saying not one of those children walked out of that line to go elsewhere. All of them followed that direction. And the teacher was leading, and all of them was in the row. And they went to the area where they had to have their snack, and they were just following directions. It was, the setting there, you can see, is classy, and everything is organized.
And I think one of the important things to note is that, I think someone mentioned it earlier, this was not always the case in Collier County.
No, it wasn't.
So a few, I think around 2013, 2014 was when they started the implementation of a lot of these things, because they really wanted to transform the district. And when they first started with the data dialogue, one of the things they said was that like the teachers would come in and the principals come in sweating. They would be so afraid, so frightened, because it was something new. It was different. You know, it was resisted, of course, at first. It was intimidating. But when you look on now, years later, you see the impact of the consistency. You see the impact of the accountability. And I think one of the challenges that we have in our system is that sometimes we implement relatively good things. We get resistance. And then we pull back, right? Whether that is our behavioral policy, whether that is our uniform policy. And I think it's important for us to talk a little bit about uniform policies and behavioral things, because I know the three of you, I know from experience, tend to be on the disciplinarian side, like myself.
I believe in that.
But what I will say is, statistics tell you that the children who are most disciplined in the school setting are those that ultimately are just as disciplined in their work settings and in their social life later on in life, right? And they're able to function and are far more successful. And so I think sometimes parents feel as though whether it's school administrators or teachers are being hard on students when they require uniformity, when they require students to be well groomed, when they require students to be on time. But one of the things I will say is that employers are saying to you, a lot of times when these students are leaving school, these are the issues that we're seeing. They're not on time, they're not disciplined, the soft skills are missing, they're coming to the workplace not groomed, untidy. And again, these are things that are stemming from whatever is happening at the school level. So for us who are in education, it is so important for us to ensure that we maintain standards, because we are not just educating persons for the book, you're educating people for life. So I don't know if you guys want to weigh in on those things.
I would say communication. So we have, I know at the beginning of every school year, the high school usually put out uniform dress codes, etc. for parents. But I think we could go a bit further than that. I would like to see, well, I know the high school has a website, or the education department can have their own website, where all information pertaining to education can be found in one place. So transparency, so parents would have a general idea of this is what is expected of my child, instead of they're calling me or calling the deputy principal, etc. So communicate to parents at the beginning of school. We send out a message, like just a reminder. I know Miss Gumbs, Sherry's Gumbs, when she was pastoral, she had a small partnership with Flo, which battery sent out like little reminders. Just send out a message, school is coming up. Now is not a time for the braids touching your ankles. Save those. You know, like something quirky that parents could get. We usually have parents' emails, but sometimes emails don't work and numbers don't work. But if we can partner with the telecommunication companies to send blasts, just to give general reminders to the parents, and then put information that way it's easily accessible to the general public. One of the things the principal left me with, they were having a lot of issues getting parents to buy in. Students were breaking rules, parents were coming complaining. The more they communicated to parents, they have like a little email thing that they send out, because they found parents weren't reading the emails. And they couldn't send anything long because they weren't interested. The more they communicated with parents, just let them know, hey, this is the expectation. And consistently, the dress code became better. Student attendance became better. Grades became better. Parents got buy-in. I think sometimes parents feel like they are a bit alienated from the education system.
So I just want to weigh in there because I know the minister said that we are disciplinarians, and I want to come back to that comes from the word disciple. Disciples mean to teach. And so discipline is good. It's punishment that's not good. So what I want to say about that though, it's more than communication. I've had 5 children go through our system, and the last one is on his last week at the Albina Lake Hatch Comprehensive School. But I want to say engagement. Yes. We need to engage parents. It's more than just communication, because communication, it's a two-way process. So when you just send me a blast or you send something on Facebook, you are assuming that I'm on Facebook, you are assuming that I can read, and you are assuming that I'm an English person. So we have to first of all engage parents. When I talk about engagement always isn't smooth. It can be messy. So you can't bring me to a meeting and say, this is what it is. That's not engagement. We have to look at everyone has a voice. And if we listen to what our parents are experiencing, we would see where they need support. We would see where they are not clear on a lot of things, because even in support services, I know if I am having a parent where a child is going into one of our centers, and I would say to the parent, I would like for you to come and see the center before you make a decision. And when the parent go there, they be like, wow, this is so different to when I was going to school. Remember, some parents would not have been back in a school setting, and maybe the experience at school wasn't a good one. So to me, we have to let down the guard first, Let's hear. I'm not talking about a meeting where you're telling me everything. I am saying, come and have that open forum. Let me tell you, as a parent, what I'm seeing, how I'm feeling about my child's education. Just don't give me and don't tell me, because my child may be the one that's not given any challenges, and I'm going to a meeting and all I'm getting is beat up. That's not what it's supposed to be. So I am saying that I agree that communication, but it has to look different. It must have engagement first. We need to hear what the parents are saying, how they're feeling about the education. Can they understand? Are they able to follow what's going on? We want to hear what the community, because the community, I may not have a child, but they're our stakeholders. They need to know what we are doing. And so those are key things for us to improve what we do, because we take it for granted. Even as simple as the report card, I can recall having to sit down with a parent, a Spanish-speaking parent, and explain what it means, every single area. And that's not something you say, oh, you don't know how to read a report card? No, we have to leave no stone unturned. And that is what I would have seen in Collier County. They do not leave a stone unturned. Every single thing is explained, and so people understand.
I mean, I have my own school, and one of the things I try to implement is parents' bond, a parents' bond. I try to have an open time with my parents, have them to come into the classroom to observe their children at work. Because again, as you, Teacher Tracelyn just mentioned, it is important that parents need to know what their children are doing. And when I had that day for the parents to come in, it was very informative. Parents really give their feedback. They sat down in the classroom. They assist their children with the activities and so on. And some of the children, the parents, they didn't even know this can happen in a classroom with 3 and 4 year olds.
But while we know that early childhood and into primary, we don't have much of that challenge with the engagement so much as when they go to high school. So we have to look at that.
So what is the...
We have to look at that, because I'm not even talking sports-wise, because our secondary school needed support. Our teachers needed support. I see where they work very hard. But as parents, if you're not in the know, like you said earlier, you feel like it's the school versus the rest of Anguilla. So what is it? Let's sit down and see how can we engage our community, how can we engage our parents, past parents. They want to know, they want to be a part.
Could start out with the PTA, getting parents involved. But sometimes as a teacher, when you reach out to parents, whether it's to congratulate their child or just to ask, to help with some assistance, you're oftentimes met with resistance from students who you would really want to support further. You could do a lot in school, but the parents need to be involved. And then you have some parents who are working. So sometimes they generally can't, they have other obligations that, well, when they explain it to you, they need this job. So they assist, and I understand that. But the point I was trying to make, when it comes to communication, I think there's a lot of misinformation in Anguilla about education, at least at the high school level. But if we would have basic information out there for parents, for example, if a parent wants to relocate from the UK to Anguilla, where can they get information without calling the education department or the school?
I understand that
something you just go, okay, so before a parent, let's say some other call a parent and say, well, your child has made an infraction, let's say. Instead of the parent coming to find out what infraction, they should be able to pull up the behavior policy. All of these things should be public. Easily accessible to the general public, so persons. Transparency across the board, so there would be no confusion. Let's say for another thing, the graduation policy should be made public to the public, so there's no conversation. Island Scholar should be made public. The Anguilla population needs to know exactly whether they want to challenge something, I agree with something, I support us, but they still just need to generally know. I think the PTA is on board now, and they're trying to do more, and I think with the PTA help, we could bridge the gap with the parents. We are at the high school, we always welcome parents to come to the school. Parents are always welcome to come to the school. Sometimes they're always welcome to come to the school. I would say for stakeholders, at least with the business department, we get a lot of assistance.
So can I ask then, because remember we go back to the data dialogues.
Yes.
I don't want us to assume. You see something like that, a survey,
Yes.
simple survey to send to parents. Do you feel?
Yes.
Because it's not about you're the teacher on the inside saying parents are welcome. How do I feel? I may see it from a different angle. So simple survey, you survey the parents and you can say we have 1,000 parents, 800 responded, and out of that 800, 90% of those parents feel welcome. Then you can come here and speak that, because that is what Shellya does. They do the work so that when they talk, it's not about how you feel, because how you feel may not necessarily be how I am feeling about it. And I'm not saying it's personal, but you have your data to say, well, hey, our data is speaking. Yeah.
I think Arlette's unit does, as she said, a good job of engagement with outside, with the community, with external stakeholders.
But Minister, we will know, you're no stronger than the weakest link. So we have pockets. Now we sit down here, we can talk about Shellya County, and we can talk about all the good practices that we have here, but we are not stronger than the weakest link. So my thing is, what we need to do, and I go back to the we.
No,
but the we, because we need to get every unit doing that, not because of how department reaches out.
Everybody's coming on board.
Right. So that's what we want to see, that when it gets to that we, when we reach that we factor, you will hear more, yes, the school instead of Arlette's
So I just would like to say other departments do also engage external stakeholders. It is just a little bit more easier for business to engage because the content we teach. So insurance, like every financial institution on the island, hotels, businesses, that's just there. But I know other departments as well engage external stakeholders. Sometimes the issue can be there's only a certain amount of stakeholders who you could contact sometimes. So you don't want to overburden persons, because again, they're looking out for all primary schools, high schools, private, different organizations, etc. But to your point, I also
you know what
agree.
I want us to engage in? Literacy across the island. So that doesn't take for money to say that I am looking for you to give me $1. We want everybody reading. We want people encouraging reading. We want to see it across the island. So basically, when we talk about engagement of our stakeholders, it's not always about a tangible or financial. We want to see that support. If they have a little area in their office where you have diverse reading material. So you are promoting reading, and it doesn't have to look like a book. It could be a magazine, it could be some picture books, so that a wide variety of persons coming in. You come in with a child, they can take up a book. And so you are promoting the idea, literacy.
So Minister, we could launch a campaign.
I think that's a great idea, actually.
Campaigns
where
are
we can
needed.
encourage businesses to have reading corners in their business. I think that's an excellent idea.
Numerous
like the credit
as
union,
well.
they have those little areas.
But we want a variety of material in those different
Goes back
areas.
to community. Everybody involved in education.
Let's raise standards.
I think it's important for us to say what we want as well, because we assume that the community will know what our needs are. But again, it goes back to having the data and then making decisions and policy decisions based on the data that you have available to you. So I think we really need to go back to, again, the data, but also the collection of data is critically important.
And the use.
Then the use of data is also important. And the data dialogue is something that we're looking to implement for the new school year, certainly.
With EMAS?
Pardon? Yeah, that as well. EMAS as well. But the data dialogue is very important. Again, I want to go back to talk to the community about the data dialogue. This is essentially where you collect data in terms of how students are doing in various areas, whether that's reading scores, numeracy scores,
Your
households, and then you utilize that data to make certain decisions or improvements within the particular school. So there may be one particular school in a particular area that has a very high percentage of ESL students, and that is the case in Anguilla. So how can we target that particular school, give them the support needed to strengthen within that particular school? Maybe we can run a parent program in that school to help strengthen parents so that we can see where the parents at home can also support and assist the children. That program may not necessarily be applicable to another school, but another school may have another weakness or another area where you can improve. So it's about one, empowering the leadership of the schools to be able to use the data to identify their gaps and identify where they need support. But again, as Teacher Tracelyn said, this is a we thing. This is not a me thing, not a you thing. This is a we thing. It's an Anguilla thing. We need to determine whether we want our children to be successful at every level of education or not. Whether we want our children to be competitive, because now you're not just competing here in Anguilla, you're competing globally in every sense of the word. So you want your children to be able to have a fighting chance wherever they go, wherever they land, that they can assimilate themselves into society and do very well. So I think the future of education is bright, but there is a lot of work. I think there's a lot of work to be done. We ask for resources, but I want to say to persons as well, to whether teachers, administrators, educators, I know that we're asking for a lot. You know, we're asking for training support, we're asking for resources, we're asking for extra personnel, but I want us to realize and recognize something. We have the highest investment that we've ever had in education across this country than we've ever had before. On a yearly basis, we spent over $40 million in education in Anguilla. Over 30 million of that is just HR personnel alone, just paying salaries. Over 30 million a year in salaries. That is a lot, right? I want to put out some information. The principals and the deputy principals are no longer in the classroom. So deputy principals no longer serve as classroom teachers. So they are out of the classroom. They're able to support administration. They're better able to support school leadership. They should be now better able to coach teachers in the classroom on a daily basis. They should be working very closely with their principals to strengthen support. We have numeracy and literacy coordinators in schools. These were things years ago. You didn't have that additional support. You have that now. Every school may not have a literacy and numeracy coordinator assigned to that school only. They may share it with another school depending on the school size. But the reality is that this is extra support that you have that years ago was never the case, and that is there. In addition to that, you have curriculum officers specifically responsible for certain subject areas. So you have literacy, you have numeracy, you have science. Again, this is an extra layer of support that many years before you didn't have. At the secondary level, department heads now have, I think, 12 sessions, is it? But it depends on, it depends.
We should.
Whereas normal teachers have about 20 sessions?
20 to 24.
20 to 24 sessions.
21, to 24 sessions.
Okay, sessions. So, so the department heads are supposed to be having less sessions.
They are. Well, some have, but they're also supporting. I know all department heads at Albina Lake Arch Comprehensive is out and about. They're doing observations, and they're trying their very best to support while managing still teaching and dealing with other issues.
Matters. And that is exactly why the workload in terms of teaching time was reduced, so that they are able to support the other teachers more. They're able to, if a teacher is out, maybe step in and support in that class for that period of time, do some coaching, do some reviewing, which I think is critically important. And so I want the education sector to know that there are many investments that are being made in education from a financial perspective. Many of our scholarships on a yearly basis go to teachers at every level. You know, a number of teachers are being formally trained. We are pouring money into education in every sense of the word. But for me, as an individual who is responsible for lobbying for additional support, additional funding, what I would like to see more of is accountability. I can lobby for money. I'm very good at that. I know how to beg. But I also want to be fair to my other ministerial colleagues as well, because remember, you're fighting against health. You know, you have airport expansion and development. There's so many, a plethora of needs. So you want to be fair that when you're lobbying for something, you're getting results, right? So if I'm lobbying for more money, I'm lobbying for more resources, I want to see that my educators are also going the extra mile. There's a cadence of accountability, okay? When teachers are supposed to be assigned to classrooms, they're in the classrooms, they're teaching, they're doing their assessments, they're making sure students, they're going the extra mile for their students. That's critically important. And so I think it's a give and take on both sides. The education department also needs to play its role and its part in supporting at every single level. And as minister, I'm certainly committed to getting as much resources as possible and as much exposure as possible and training. But I also need to see that reflected in the data. Because I look at the data that we do have, and sometimes the data it's a lot. It can be very emotional looking at the data when you look at how much is being poured in and you look at some of the data, you look at the numeracy levels, you look at the literacy levels. It can be a little frustrating.
You know, it's going to your point, as someone who loves business and finance, money isn't always the answer, and adding more isn't always the answer. As far as I am concerned, certain things need to be taken out of the equation. We don't always need more. For instance, at a primary level, I think my son was in grade 3 and he came with an assignment and I was like, wow, what is this? I will have to do it. In my mind, at this age, you're supposed to be concentrating on numeracy and literacy, not a project that I will have to do because you can't do it. So I think we need to go back to well, I know they have a new curriculum or not. I'm not too knowledgeable, so I can't really speak to that. But I should believe at kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, your main focus should be literacy, numeracy, reading. You could learn social studies and science through reading. You read different things, reading comprehension, etc. Because what we're seeing right now, at least at a high school level, writing, expression, non-existent. Our students could speak very well. They could sell you anything. But writing, no, we have basic maths problems. And I would say I teach students who are in, let's say, band 1, band 2, but they have issues with basic maths problems. And that's not to say that they're not being taught math or not being taught anything, but it's so much. So sometimes I speak to students, they become overwhelmed. Sometimes they're learning things at the primary school level that they would have learned I would have learned, let's say, 2nd, 3rd, 4th form. So sometimes 1st and 2nd form is like a repeat of what you did in grade 6 or grade 5. So maybe sometimes the information may be too much. We're exposing the children to too much too early. And maybe they're burnt out. I've had students express to me that I'm tired. Because while we are adding all of this, if you look at the percentage of students who are going to afternoon classes, it is astronomical. It is very high. From kindergarten right up, students are in classes because, again, parents feel overwhelmed as well. So sometimes not about adding more, sometimes we could take out and refine. And instead of then, we could give more support in classrooms. So let's say add 2 teachers to, let's say, a classroom instead of adding an additional subject. Let's say at the quarter campus, well, at the high school level, we can, instead of having an option sheet, we could maybe change options. CXC mathematics, the best pick for us in Anguilla. Can we do something else? Can some of our students can we have our own local exam with the basic maths courses and partner the education? Well, you as the minister can discuss with businesses here on the island to know, well, these set of students is doing this program, it will be accredited, and they can find employment instead of paying to do CXC as CCSLC, which is not accepted. Some businesses don't know what it is.
Madam Minister, I know that you are trying very hard, especially with education, and I applaud you for that. But I am in education, especially the early part of our education. And you know, we as the preschool teachers, we are the founders. We give the early start for my friend here to build on.
Amen.
Right? What I would want to see right now is that I want preschool to have its own officer. All right? Because I feel that we are being left out over the years, and early childhood is supposed to be growing for me, but it's on a standstill. And a lot of things that I saw from the tour is not like we are new to those ideas. We are in it, but it's not consistent. Now I have mine, and especially some of the areas that I saw while I was there. I came back and I introduced it to my teachers, and we started to put down some of our areas. And they are happy to know that, okay, we have a little space that we can put our little science area, our music area, and so on. These things were in effect a long time, but as I said, we are not consistent with it. And for the preschool, we need some more working workshops to educate with the teachers more. We just don't need a workshop every now and then. Because I can recall in the early years, before I went off to Trinidad to train, I didn't know nothing about teaching. But then you had those who had the knowledge, like Teacher Londrina and Teacher Heather. The ones now who are not trained, they were the ones who trained us. They give us some internship. You know, they prepared us. And I think that should be able to come back, because a lot of teachers are in early childhood. They are not trained. But if they get that, you know, push, they can be ready. I mean, I must say to myself right now, I have 4 teachers right now who I encourage to do the UE early childhood. And I am proud of them, because it makes it best for my institution and the children, you know, and for themselves.
If I can interject there, like you said, Teacher Thelma, that preschool is the foundation. Early childhood is the foundation. And we have to ensure the quality of our teachers at early childhood matches up too, because primary school teachers and secondary teachers are expected to be qualified to teach. And if this is the foundation, we have to also bring up the early childhood educators.
Right.
So we have to ensure that they meet the requirements in terms of qualifications, because it's not all that's the little babies, you're teaching little babies. You are right, it is the foundation. This building, the walls and the roof couldn't stand without a foundation. So the solid foundation, and so we have to ensure that our teachers access. And I must say that UE, they offer the early childhood care and development. It's a continuing professional development course. It has like 5 courses in it. I teach 4 of those 5 courses. And I must say, I have seen a shift this year. I teach TCI, BVI, and Anguilla. Since COVID, they were merged, so it's virtual. And we were having 15, sometimes 20 teachers from TCI, 2 from Anguilla, 1 from BVI. This time around, we have now about 10 from Anguilla. So I am saying, I'm seeing the shift.
Since when, Teach? When did you see that shift?
Well, I see the shift. This school, this group now, it has shifted to more Anguillians.
Good. Right.
For the past, from 2021 until now, was mostly TCI leading.
So one of the things that we did as an administration is that we made it available free for early childhood educators to be able to do the UE program. So you apply through government and you're able to do it. And I know there's a 70-30 that we offer to government employees, but we've gone beyond the 70-30 even for early childhood educators.
Yes.
So we're covering all of it. And one of the reasons we did that as an administration is because we recognize and realize, one, early childhood educators are some of the lowest compensated. They don't have a lot of benefits that other teachers have, so they have to cover their own insurance and all of those things. So we thought it was important to go the extra mile for them, to at least that would be one thing that they don't have to think about. So if there are any early childhood educators out there who know that they're interested, know that they want to develop themselves, I would encourage them to take advantage of the program, because as you said, the other islands are taking advantage of it. You know, we have traditionally been behind in pushing ourselves. So again, I am committed as the Minister of Education to provide these resources, to lobby wherever possible, because I recognize that the challenges exist. And so with you saying that you're seeing the uptick, I like to hear that, because then that makes me think, okay, I can lobby more for them.
Yes, the data.
Because the data is there that says they're taking advantage of this opportunity. So I can go back and lobby to my ministerial colleagues and say, well, what more can we do? Because the last time we did something, the data showed us that they took advantage of it. They're trying to improve. How can we meet them halfway? So I think that information is also important for me to hear as well, because it makes you feel like, okay, this is worth it, and we can continue along that line. So I think that's good.
I must say that again. I have another one coming for you.
So I think we also need to encourage all of our early childhood educators to get some kind of certification, because it's a start. While it's not a degree, I have students in TCI who have now moved on from that certificate and they're now doing their bachelor's. Because it is robust. It's not a easy, it is robust enough so that if they finish this, they can go on
to the next
so
level.
I think that it's important that early childhood educators not just say, we need more money, but qualify yourselves as well.
I agree. I was going to mention, before you mention UV, I was going to mention maybe ACC can start a program as such to help continue, maybe free. But I was going to say, to ensure that education is continuous and to show that as a country and a community that we care about education, what I would like to see is that a current government and the opposition meet with external stakeholders, teachers, to have a comprehensive, at least a 20-year plan for education. We know in Anguilla government usually change every 5 years, maybe 10 if you're lucky, if you're doing well. However, with a comprehensive education plan, regardless of who comes in, education continues. Because without education leads to a country's economic development. You could have the greatest roads, the biggest airport, the nicest jetty, but if your human resource aren't capable, you'll be taken over. So what good would it be to have everything when education is lacking?
We can also look at, we do have our EDP, or Education Development Plan. That's a 5-year plan. We notice now, even with us as education coming on board, because the other sectors would have already have the PMDRs. And so to me, it is pointing in the right direction if we just be consistent.
So
because
we
do have a lot of the things that
on paper
they have. No, we are doing some of it, but we're not being consistent.
We're not being consistent, and there's not enough widespread buy-in. That's one of the challenges I have. There has to be buy-in at every single level in any plan that we have.
Are we reevaluating? Because we have a lot of things. Even during one of the discussions we had at the end, we have everything on paper. Yes, we have plans, but a 20-year plan is a long-term plan, different from a 5-year plan. We have a 5-year plan. Has the data that have been shown that yes, we have met this outcome, this, that, other? Has that been shared with education officer, well, teachers, and the educator, and the general public? So we just can't have things. We need a comprehensive plan to show that regardless of who is there, education will continue to meet these objectives. So
because
for instance,
we have to continue we have to move on to the point. We are, to me in Anguilla, we are changing towards letting the public know where we are in terms of education. But you see, we want to showcase certain things. We want to showcase the good, but we have to showcase everything. Because if your school is not performing, it is also out there. If you look at the UK system, who is sacked if the school is failing? You know who's sacked? The head. The head is sacked. Look at any game, anything, you see cricket, you see whatever, if they're not performing, it's the head. So I am saying we don't want to make those hard decisions, because at the end of the day, we have to look at this thing holistically. We have to look at it in the sense that we have to, if it's going to be accountability, it doesn't matter if it's me. That's the thing. Accountability doesn't change because of who the person is. Everybody must be accountable, and we need to put the systems in place where they connect. Our systems are not connecting.
Yeah, I agree.
And so that is why it seems like we are not doing anything. Now, I had a workshop this morning, today, with our counselors and designated safeguarding leads, 18. And I'm saying, why, if I have an issue, okay, Arlette, so education dealing with Arlette, then so Department of Social Development dealing with Arlette, then probation dealing with Arlette, when we can all collaborate and deal with Arlette and present a comprehensive support. And so this is what's happening with us. We have pockets of everything going good, but I am going to stop after a while. I'm going to get tired because there is no one else holding my hand. So we need to bring it together. Bring the pieces together. Minister, we do have them. We do have it. Not all. We can enhance the accountability.
The accountability is the biggest one. That is the biggest
even
one.
down to the
And
class,
consistency.
even down to the classrooms. I was like, wow, but our classrooms are better on Angular.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have a
So
lot.
you see?
You know, the school is nice. We lack a little signage, but that will come with you, I'm sure.
Yeah,
you will find the funding.
And we have improved in a lot of our spaces, as you said. A lot of our schools are new. We're doing more redevelopment of some of the other schools as we speak. The Tibet building, the science building is being built. So we are going to continue to improve the infrastructure landscape.
It's like accountability.
But the accountability is really critical. And to me, if all the investments would be for naught if we don't get the accountability in place. That accountability would fix,
So
to
that
me,
is what we need to
half of the issues.
Because what I want to say that, Arlette, you alluded to it earlier. At Collier County, we are here talking about what the good that we are seeing, the picture. But we don't realize that a lot of these things happen because of the accountability.
Yes.
If you have to perform. If your children perform to hit the standard, you get a certain amount of money.
Yes.
If they exceed the standard, you get extra money. And so that will have driven them, and also because of the accountability, it continues to drive them to do better. But if we are not held accountable, anything goes. And so it has to be consistent. You cannot hold me accountable, but Arlette.
Yes, correct. Consistent and also fair.
Fair.
Yeah.
Not
Fair across
favoritism.
the board.
So I think education, well, I think the civil services seem a bit bottleneck sometimes because of the firing process. What I seem to, what it appears to be, is that you do a poor performance at a high school, you get sent to primary. You do a poor performance, no, I'm speaking generally. You do a poor performance in immigration. I'm just saying.
The data.
Then again, it goes back to data, not tracking, but I think a lot of people just feel like I have a job for life, so why should I improve? Why should I do better?
That's
for
the part.
something to be held accountable. As a teacher, sometimes I know in the school it does feel like you getting beaten down when results come out. You have done your very best to ensure that students are there, but you're not in the home to ensure that they are studying, reviewing, reaching to the exam on time. But everybody comes down, and the teacher and the school, oh, you guys did not do X, Y, Z. But we have other stakeholders, parents, social services to ensure students come to school, X, Y, Z, who are also involved. So sometimes you can feel that they don't see the positive that you're doing, but rather the negative. And then sometimes teachers may get discouraged. Well,
I'm going to tell you.
Let me
tell you, Arlette.
And wait. If I am discouraged and I see that I can do whatever I want I will do it because nobody's holding me accountable at any level. And maybe your head of department may hold you accountable, the principal may hold you accountable, but then
She's holding my hand.
something else may
But Arlette, I must say
go to
though,
human nature.
I must say we have to really balance this, because you just talk about results and the teacher feel beaten down if the results are low.
Especially if they're
But when they're high, what do? Aren't you excited? So I always say we have to take both, because when the results are high, it does not necessarily mean that it's a direct. And what I want teachers to do, don't take it directly because it's because of you. Because like you said, some of them are going to afternoon classes. Some of them are getting help at home. So what it is, isn't it a partnership? It's a we. So we celebrate. Come on, parents. Because we tend to, some parents sit at graduation and wonder, well, how did my child get there? Parent, we have to celebrate parental involvement, and other stakeholders who come in to support. It takes a village to raise this child. So we want to always highlight this whole engagement around this child. Now, you may not know, I don't know your village, you don't know my village, but there's a godmother, there is somebody that I could depend on to take my child. Hey, I'm in a meeting, I can call a teacher that I know and say, hey, give him $5 there. It's a whole partnership. So we need to celebrate everybody, and that's why I believe that if everybody has a role to play, we allow everybody to play their role and it will fit. I believe in the puzzle. I believe in the puzzle.
Sometimes
everybody has
a piece.
Exactly. No. Every puzzle is complete, but we need to ensure that that person fits. Don't push them away.
No, you don't ever push persons away, but so I can
puzzle
see
might be somewhere coming.
It can be discouraging as I'm speaking generally, not even to me personally. I have seen situations when you come into a room and you just feel like, wow, there's nothing the school is doing right, there's nothing here is doing right. No, I'm just saying, and persons can say, well, I'm doing all I can do, and then, but sometimes, I'm not saying that gives anybody the right to be a delinquent.
Goes back to the data.
Accountability.
No,
well, I think maybe sometimes I'm in those rooms because oftentimes I'm told that I'm very tough, and that I come down hard.
Continue.
But at the end of the day, I am someone who, if I believe in something, I'm going to lobby for you. I'm going to get whatever the resources are. But equally, I'm going to hold you accountable.
Amen.
So I will say, I was very upset last year around the reopening of school time. And
it's new.
I've said it publicly. I wasn't happy with what would have occurred at that time. Then there were reasons, but at the end of the day, I think it's important to learn from when things happen. So what I've done this year, I took a very proactive approach. I met with the maintenance team last week to get a better understanding of how they work, how they operate, as well as their leadership, so that we could come up with a plan for this year's reopening, so that we know how long the procurement process is going to take, when you have to get your stuff submitted for procurement, so that on July 1st, all the work in all of the various schools get started, and not that you're starting in August. So for me, we have to all learn from whatever happened in the past, because you can't keep making the same mistakes every year. So I'm going to take a proactive approach that some people may say, well, the minister really shouldn't be involved in meetings with maintenance, figuring out how to map out. But
you're going to get blamed.
I am the one who's on the chopping block when schools don't open on time. So as a result of such, you have to take a very proactive approach to make sure that you're ahead of things. And once the system is working well and there are no problems, then you take a hands-off approach. So again, it's a give or take. And I want to say to persons who are applying for leadership positions, think long and hard, because they're not easy. They're very challenging, and a lot of long hours. You have to make a lot of tough decisions, and you have to be accountable. And so what I find is that a lot of times people see these fancy titles and jobs being advertised, and they go and they apply, and they're very successful. And then when the time comes to accountability, that is absent. So I want to challenge us in the system. I want to challenge our leaders at every single level, right? Whether it's at the department level, at the ministry level, at the school level. If you're applying for leadership positions, make sure that you understand, one, what is required of you, right? When you go into leadership, it's no longer about working 8 to 3 or 8 to 4.
Amen.
I know Teacher Thelma, I've 7 o'clock, I've seen Teacher Thelma at her school, right? You know, department heads are working around the clock to ensure that there is success within their departments. You know, it's different. You know, when you get into an administrative role, because leadership roles take on an administrative portion that you never had before. And every teacher doesn't make a great administrator. And that is the reality, right? Sometimes it's a tough transition, right? And some people are able to transition better than others, right? But when you take on that leadership role, know and understand that it's going to be tough. And you may not get it right away. You may need extra training. You may need support. Nothing is wrong with saying, you know, I see that you do this very well, Miss Gumbs. Can you tell me how you're able to be so successful? Teacher Thelma, you know, you've been able to create this dynamic. How do you do it? Because I'm struggling with this. Nothing is wrong with saying to a colleague, I'm struggling with this. I go to my premier all the time. I say, Premier, you know, you've walked this road before. Tell me what you think should be done. Whether it's a colleague, whether it's important, because nobody has a monopoly on information. And I go back to what Teacher Tracelyn said, the we. We all have the ingredients. We all can look at persons who are doing very well in particular areas. How can we replicate that through other areas in the system? How can we link teachers together? I know when I came into the system, teacher Lolita was my senior teacher. And I benefited so much from Teacher Lolita. We still have a great relationship because coming in as a new young teacher, that support from her was so important for me because I was coming in practically straight out of sixth form, not knowing much, just trying to find my way. But she was excellent in helping me to transition. So how can we replicate that in other areas in the education system? So I will let you guys give one final comment or wrap up, but I want to put on record my sincerest gratitude for having you three here this evening. It's been a very engaging conversation, very strong views, which are important. And I think for me as a leader, it's important to have strong views in the room. Even if I don't always agree with the views, it's good to have different perspectives from different people who are in different positions that see things different. And I will say one of the biggest benefits of the Collier trip for me was the ability to spend that week with so many educators. Sitting with them, talking during the lunch break or riding on the bus or on the plane, just hearing them speak candidly about what's happening on the ground on a regular basis. So thank you guys so much for your willingness to come here, to be put on the spot, and to just speak candidly about education.
So thank you for the invitation. I would just like to say in the future, I would like to see staff development to be year-round. For instance, we could maybe partner with ACC, pay for a program where teachers will be able to do sessions at their own pace. So instead of meeting at the end of the school year, I think our PD session is the second week in July for a week. We have it throughout the year, but this is the main one for the week. Teachers can do it throughout the year, so maybe let's say 8 hours a year, 80, whatever hours. Education department could pick the sessions, but teachers must complete these before the school year ends instead of having that week.
I must say that we do have an education officer, human resource management, and that is part of our initiative going forward. And also remember, we do have the OECS, also the communities of practice, because we want to ensure that it's not just all year round, but it's what you need.
Yes.
So you have the choice, and because what I may need, you may not need. So we don't want to push everybody into a professional development that they do not.
That is this,
Need,
yeah, hardly. So that would be good. So we could take away from that week.
Right. Thank you, Madam Minister, for inviting me. I mean, the little exposure was beneficial, informative, and I look forward in continue working with you. And I would like you to, have some more sessions, especially with the early childhood teachers.
Absolutely.
All right, so it was great to be here. And as I said at the beginning, education has been my life. Straight out of secondary school, straight into education. I'm passionate about education in Anguilla. I have seen where we have grown, and I have seen where we have gaps. But I want every educator out there to know that you are important. You are valued. We appreciate you. It is hard work.
It is
hard work. Thank you for your service.
Yes, I'd like to echo Tracelyn's sentiments. Teaching is difficult. I'm trying to teach my 6-year-old now. And we had quite a number of sessions for Easter. And let me tell you, teachers need a badge of honor. But no, it's a lot of hard work. And it's not just during the day. You're managing different personalities. You're a counselor, you're a doctor, you're so many different things. But teaching goes beyond, because you're also grading papers in the night. You're also lesson planning. So it's round the clock, 24/7. So we know that it's hard work. We appreciate all of the hard work. I'm happy to announce that I think the performance review, the compensation review will be effective May 1st. So from the next pay period, that will be finished, because the report is complete. The PW report is complete. So I think they're just working out the kinks in relation to that, because I know a lot of teachers have a lot of questions about that. So again, thank you guys so much for being here this evening. It's been a pleasure to have you.
The we.
Thank you for joining us on this another presentation of Just the Facts. You can catch us next week and every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Have a pleasant evening.